Welcome. This is Bridge Maps with Steve. This is where I share how I use maps to organize and structure what I'm learning about Bridge. Today's topic is overcalls and the takeout double, two core bids used to compete after your opponents open. So, your opponents open the bidding. You wanted to bid. Now what can you do? Think. What are your options? The core idea. When opponents open, aside from preempting, you basically have three choices: pass, overcall, or takeout double. Put simply, these are ways to enter the auction after your opponents open the bidding. An overcall is a competitive bid that tells partner your best suit. You use it when you have a good long suit and enough values to compete. An overcall says, I have a suit. The takeout double is a competitive double that shows shape and asks partner to choose a suit. It's called the takeout because you're expecting your partner to take out the double and put it into a suit. You use the takeout double when you have an opening hand values, shortness in the opener's suit, support for the unbid suits, and no clear suit to bid naturally. A takeout double says, partner, pick a suit. Why they matter. Without them, you may miss a chance to compete for the contract and give your opponents an easy path to their best contract. These two bids solve that problem differently. Overcalls describe your suit. Takeout doubles ask your partner to choose theirs. The fundamentals of the takeout double and the overcall. Who does it? Either defender can overcall or make a takeout double when it's their turn to bid. What is it? They're both competitive bids used to enter an open auction. When are they used? They're after the opponent opens on your first opportunity to bid. Where does it fit? It's a core part, they're both a core part of competitive bidding strategy. How does it help? What is it for? They interfere with the opponent's bidding, they contest or compete for the contract, and they can help partner with the opening lead. The good news is, as bridge bidding goes, overcalls and takeout doubles are among the more straightforward bids to understand and start using. Let's look at the map that I have for overcalls and takeout doubles, beginning with overcalls. So here we have the overcalls. We have the overcaller, their partner, the advancer, and then the overcaller's rebid. Start with the overcaller. What is the trigger for an overcall? Well, an opponent opens and you have a good 5-card suit and you think, do I have a bid? What are the goals? You want to be able to describe your suit, possibly compete, possibly interfere, and or suggest an opening lead to your partner. What are the requirements? First, you look at the suit, a suit overcall, and then we'll look at a no trump overcall. In a suit overcall, you need to have the suit quality and the strength level we'll look at. Let's start with the suit quality. In the suit, you need to have 5 of the suit you're overcalling with. Ideally, 2 of the top 3 honors or 3 of the top 5 honors. The longer the suit, the less strength required. Then we'll look at the level and the strength. At the 1 level, you need 7 to 17 points. So you can be lighter than an opening hand. You also can include length when you're counting your points. At the 2 level, it's a little trickier. You want to factor in vulnerability, and you want to have 12 to 17 points, high card points. Some people say 11 to 17 high card points. But you want to have a strong suit. If you have poor suit quality, you need 12 plus points. Usually at the 2 level, you'd like to have 6 plus cards in the suit. An exception with a very strong hand, 18 plus, you'd go to the big double, but we're focusing first on overcalls here. There's also a jump overcall, which would be partnership dependent and it's usually weak and preemptive. A jump could be strong, or it could be a natural, or it could be weak. Next, we'll look at a no trump overcall. A no trump overcall promises 15 to 18 high card points, balanced, and stoppers in the opponent's suit, as well as systems are on, such as Stamen and transfers. Let's look at some examples for both in the map. So your opponent opens with one heart. What are the possible overcalls? We'll start with a 1 spade overcall, which would be a simple overcall showing 5+ spades and 7 to 17 high card points. Or if you overcall in a minor, you'd have to go to the 2 level, which would usually show 5+ cards, and 6+ cards would be better if you're going to overcall in a minor, particularly because you're at the 2 level. And you have to have 11 to 17 high card points. And you need to have 3 of the top 5 honors. Or you could do a no trump overcall. A little different. This would say you have a balanced hand and 15 to 18 high card points. Again, systems are on. Generally partnership agreement, but that's going to be pretty common for the system still to be on. You could be semi-balanced, but you want to make sure you don't have any voids or weak doubletons. The key here, though, in a no trump overcall, you don't need to have 5 in the suit, but you do need to have stoppers in the opponent's suit, such as in the example where the opener was a heart. You need to have stoppers in hearts. Then there are jumps. Could be weak or strong. Generally it means weak. It depends upon your partnership. If you're weak, it would be 5 to 10 points. And if you were very weak and you preempted, you need to have 7+ in the suits. So let's look at the advancer responses. So the advancer is the partner of the overcaller. The advancer usually bids as if responding to an open. The key here is to show support for the suit of the overcaller. So you have support. If your support's 6 to 9 points and you have a 3-card support, you do a simple raise at the cheapest level, 2 spades in the example. If you have 4-card support with 6 to 9 points, you could jump raise to the 3 level. And if you have 5-card support, depending upon your partnership agreement, you could use a preemptive raise. For example, if the open was 1 heart and your overcaller bid 1 spade, and you jump to 4 of the suit, you would be bidding 4 spades. That would be something called the weak freak. Let's look at if you have 10, 11, or 12 points. I say here, if you had 3-card support, given that you have greater than 10 points, you would Q-bid the opponent's suit. In this example would be a 2-heart bid, and this would be a limit raise for spades, showing interest in game, and it would be forcing. So basically this is invitational. However, if you have 12 to 13 plus points and 3-card support, plus you would bid game. However, if you don't have a fit, what are your options? If you don't have a fit for your partner's overcalled suit and you have a weak hand, you just pass. If you have a good hand, good is subjective, but if you have a good hand with a strong 5 or 6-card suit of your own, you could bid that suit. If you're certain, you will be at least as well off as leaving it in your partner's overcalled suit. Basically, you're signaling that your suit should be trump. Remember, a new suit by advancer is usually not forcing, so your partner could pass your new suit and leave you there. So you want to be certain you're as well off. However, if you have stoppers in the opponent's suit and you don't have a fit for your partner's overcall, with 6 to 10 points, you could bid no trump at the lowest level. With 11 to 12, you could jump in no trump. With 13 plus, you could Q-bid the opponent's suit and then rebid no trump. What would the overcaller rebid if the advancer bid? Okay, the overcaller, the person who did the original overcall, is not forced. If you have nothing else to say, you just pass. If you have extra strength or length, in other words 6+ cards, you can invite at the next level, usually rebidding your suit. If forced by the partner's Q bid, you must bid. If you're minimum, just rebid your suit at the cheapest level. If you have extra values, invite or bid to game. A caution when using overcalls. Don't compete with the opponent for the same suit. Just pass. And also be more careful when you're vulnerable. And remember, 2-level overcalls are more dangerous. It requires a good suit and real values. Next, we'll go to the Takeout Double. Now we have the map for the Takeout Double. The Takeout Double is a form of overcall. The trigger for the Takeout Double is your opponent opens in a suit, you want to compete, and then you think, how can we find a fit? The goals for using the Takeout Double are to find the best fit at the lowest level, to show support for the unbid suits, and to compete efficiently. The Takeout Double is forcing one round, so your partner must bid in response to your double. If the opponent bids after your Takeout Double, that does take off the force, but then we look at the requirements. So, to make a Takeout Double, you need to have opener's points, which is 12 to 17. You can count length, or you can use distribution points. You don't do both. The doubler often becomes the dummy, so you can use distribution points. If you have more than 18 points, you don't use the double, you use the big double, which I'll probably cover at another time. But the key things, you need shortness in the opponent's bid suit. So that shortness could be a void, a singleton, or a doubleton. You need to have support for all the unbid suits. You need to have at least 3 in each suit, and your preference is to have 4 in a major. You can infer some things when using the Takeout Double. It often implies you have 4 of a major, because if you had 5 of the major, you could overcall first. The shape expectations shown here on the map. If you have a singleton in the opener's suit, such as the opponent opens in 1 spade, and then you only have a single spade, and you have 4 hearts, 4 clubs, and 4 diamonds. If you have a doubleton, such as after a 1 heart opening, you have 2 hearts, so you have more than 3 in all the other suits. Then, if you have 5 in a minor, after a 1 spade opening, for example, you still only have 2 spades, but you have 3 hearts, 5 clubs, and 3 diamonds. You want to avoid using the Takeout Double with only 4 in a minor. So, we're going to look now at what the advancer does, what your partner does in response to your Takeout Double. So, initially, and usually it stays that way, but it can stay that way, but not always. Initially, your partner chooses a strain. They're the boss, and they will often be the declarer. It's a forced response. If the right-hand opponent bids, the force is off, and you may pass, as I previously said. You want to show your best suit, which is typically your longest suit. So, if you have 0 to 8 points, you would bid at the next level. You respond as the advancer to your partner's Takeout Double, even with 0 points. Your partner wants to know your shape first. They have the strength. So, if you have 9 to 11 points, or possibly 12, you could do an invocational jump. This jump is not weak. If you have 12 plus, you want to bid game. So, if you have no clear natural suit bid, and you're balanced, you could bid no trump. You would bid 1 no trump with 7 to 10, possibly 6 points. With 11 to 12, you would bid 2 no trump, and with 13 plus, your game, and you'd bid 3 no trump. However, you want to have a stopper in the opener's suit if you're going to switch the strain to no trump. and systems are on if the opponents pass. If you're not balanced, you could Q-bid in the opener's suit. This would force the doubler to choose the suit, and then they would be the declarer, which would make the advancer the dummy. So, and then rarely you may pass if you happen to be long and strong in the opener's suit, which is unusual, but it can happen. Next, we'll look at the doubler's rebid. So, the doubler on your rebid, you want to trust your partner's ranges. If the advancer showed only 0 to 8, you want to pass because you have no chance of game. If the advancer was invitational with 9 to 11, possibly 12 points, you want to then show if you're minimum 12 to 15, pass. If you're medium, just do a simple raise. And if you're maximum, you want a bid game. However, if your advancer showed 12 plus points, you usually pass because you're already at game. If you're not at game, you want to go ahead and bid game. Or if you're really strong, you could explore slam. The takeout double is a very common bid. Next, we'll go to some examples of some hands that I've played. Now I'm going to look at two examples of hands actually played, one demonstrating the overcall and the other demonstrating the takeout double. So to begin with, here's the hand. I was south and the dealer was east, and they were the opener. They had 5 diamonds and some good points, only 4 spades, so they couldn't open in major. It's not a no trump hand, so they opened in their minor 1 diamond, showing 12 to 21 points and likely 4 plus diamonds. I was south and I looked at my options. I had 5 hearts and I had good points and 4 spades, so I was able to overcall 1 heart. That showed 7 to 17 points and 5 plus hearts. A simple, easy decision to overcall. Next was West, and their response to their partner's 1 diamond open, they switched suits and bid 2 clubs. They showing their other suit. They could have shown their 4 hearts, but since I overcalled in hearts, that made that less of a option. They also had 10 plus points, so they had 7 high card points and 3 for a singleton, so changing suit at the 2 level was reasonable. And then they changed suit also because they had no known fit for the partner's diamonds. Even though the partner opened in it, it could have easily been only 3 diamonds, and with 3 diamonds, in the West, they didn't know they had a fit. So next is my partner, North. Their response to my 1 heart overcall, they bid 2 hearts, a simple raise, showing the fit, which was the priority. They also had 10 high card points and 1 for doubleton, so they could have Q-bid to show invitational values. They made a safe conservative bid, a raise, given they had a flat hand, minimal shortness, only 3 hearts, and soft values. But that was the bid they made. Next, we go to East in their response to their partners, their rebid after their partner bid 2 clubs. They raised their partner to 3 clubs, showing the fit for their suit. So they had solid clubs, 5 in the West and 3 in the East, with all the high card points in those suits, in that suit too. Next was my turn in the South. After my partner showed the fit for hearts, I raised to 3 hearts, making a competitive raise. We had favorable vulnerability. We were not vulnerable, and the opponent was, and we had I had good shape. So passing, if I did, would have handed the opponents an easy 3 club contract. So next we go to West. Their next bid is a double. After their partner showed a fit for clubs, they doubled, which I have it in red here because I'm unsure of what that actually meant. It could have been for penalty, it could have been a cooperative double, but I'm unsure what it meant. However, we'll see where it goes from here. North, my partner, passed my 3 heart bid, leaving me in the hearts. There was a conservative choice, particularly after the double. My partner might have interpreted that West was very strong, just unsure, so they passed. Next, we go to East and their response to the double. They bid 3 spades, bidding the other suit. It's likely they misinterpreted their partner's double, and they still wanted to compete and not defend. After East bid 3 spades, I passed, and then unfortunately for East-West, West passed also, which stranded their partner in a bad spade contract. They could have corrected the bid to 4 clubs, but that's how the bidding ended up, and that's where the overcall was used in the bidding. The demonstration of the overcall here, what did it accomplish? 2 things. It competed, trying to get the contract, and then it also disrupted, got the opponents outside their comfort zone, and possibly, likely, the pressure by disrupting created a mistake. The lessons learned are the double causing possible confusion, the vulnerability impacts factoring into the decisions what to bid and when to bid, and that the opponents got stranded in a bad contract. So that's the overcall being used in an actual hand. Next, we'll move to the takeout double. Here's a hand where I demonstrate using the takeout double. We see in the upper right how the cards played out, and this was an actual hand that I played. So the South was the dealer, and they opened 1 club. Their 1 club open shows 12 to 21 points and 3+ clubs. That was the bid they made, and so it was my job in the West to look at what my options might be. So, to a 1 club opening, I had shortness in clubs, a singleton. I also had support for the unbid suits, with having 3 each, 3 or more in each of the suits, including a majors, and I had opening value. So my hand met the criteria for a takeout double, and that's what I bid. Next, we look at North. They redoubled after I doubled, typically showing that they thought the contract was theirs. They had strong support for their partners, 1 club open. They had 5, and they had 8 high card points and 2 for distribution. That's typically a little light for a redouble. Ideally, you want 10+ high card points, so it overstated their hand value a little bit. They were also vulnerable, so that's a consideration. We'll get back to possible actions later. So East, what did they do to my takeout double? My partner showed their best suit, which was diamonds. I would think they likely had 5+ by making that bid. That was clearly their best suit: 5 diamonds, 2 spades, 3 hearts, and 2 clubs, and all the high card points were in the diamonds. So they have the 2 diamond bid. Now South, what do they do in response to their partner's redouble? They passed. Next, my rebid. After my partner, the advancer, showed me their best suit, I then showed the fit for those diamonds by bidding 3 diamonds, keeping it at the lowest level, which was a simple raise with 3 diamonds. So then North passed because their partner passed. Then East passed again, so leaving me in a 3 diamond contract. So what else could have been done with this hand? So we'll begin with the opener. So the opener could, possible actions, a more correct action would be to have opened and won no trump. They had 16 high card points, and they had a balanced hand, 5-3-3-2, a classic clear one no trump opening. That would have changed the whole auction, but they didn't make that bid. So now myself, as the doubler, what other options or actions could I have taken? Well, on my first bid, go back to the rebid later. On my first bid, I could have overcalled one heart instead of doubling. I had 5 hearts, and 3 of the top 5 honors in those hearts. So a overcall of 1 heart would have been more descriptive and classically a more correct bid than the takeout double that I made. So North, redouble, probably not their best options, but that's the bid they made. Then East, responses to other actions. If I had overcalled on my first bid, so we'll start here. If I had overcalled with hearts instead of making the takeout double on my first bid, they could have shown the heart fit, because my overcall would have showed 5. They had 3, so we had a 5-3 fit in hearts. That would have been better than a 3 diamond fit or contract that we ended up in, because I used the takeout double. So, other possible actions for South, ideally they could have played in a 4-level club fit, or even better, they could have easily found a fit or a contract strain in 3 no trump, and 3 no trump would have been easy to make for them. They had 27 total points, balanced on the South and fairly balanced in the North. It would have been an easy contract for them, but the redouble made that challenging to get there. Other possible actions I could make in the West, given that I did use the takeout double for my first bid, on my rebid, instead of the 3 diamonds, I could have that time have changed suit to the hearts, because I had enough points to show changing the suit, and I had 5 hearts. So I had 2 options to change to hearts, of which neither I did, which probably wasn't the best case. So if we look at this, in the end, the 3 diamond contract for us ended up with a 90% ending in the contract. However, another table bid a 4 heart contract. Actually, only one other table of the about 10 hands that played it, 10 tables that played it, ended up in a 4 heart contract. But the 4 heart contract made 100%. So, what did the takeout double demonstrate? What did it accomplish? 1, it found a fit at the lowest level, and it competed. All right. The opponent held a 10-card club fit and 27 points. So we competed and ended up with the contract. The lessons learned, though, first, South had a great opportunity for 1 no trump opening. Myself, in the West, my choice of a takeout double versus an overcall, there's to be learned from there. The overcall would be classically a better or more correct bid. And in the West, I never showed my hearts. And clearly, North's, well, not clearly necessarily, but North's redouble, made it a little challenging. Noting also vulnerability factored into this, because everybody was vulnerable. Again, that's the takeout double in use. I'm not claiming to make the right bids all the time, but the point here is I'm showing a process and making observations of how when you can use the bid, and how after you've played the hand, how you can assess what went wrong, what went right, what could have been different. Key points. Know and understand the difference between overcalls and takeout doubles. Which bid is more descriptive? The overcall. Which bid is stronger? The takeout double. Which bid allows more bidding space for your partnership? the takeout double. Contrasting, the overcall takes away bidding space for your opponent. So therefore, which bid is more disruptive? The overcall. Remember, overcalls tell, doubles ask. Choose wisely. It's a partnership game. Competing is essential to bridge. Join the auction when the chance allows it. Overcalls and takeout doubles give you that opportunity, and they're fundamental to competitive bridge. Thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful.